Hi everybody, welcome to our bonus podcast for this week. It is the middle of the year, and that can only mean one thing. We're going to talk about how it's been so far the last 6 months on Coronation Street, which could be quite fun, considering the 6 months we've had. Gemma, you're Gemma, aren't you?
I'm Gemma.
I'm Michael. We just got to say that at the beginning. It's very important. So, 2024 so far on Coronation Street then. How's the tone of this podcast going to be, do you reckon?
I don't know, because this is on the back of our Patreon episode. Thank you, patrons, for supporting us. You will have had to listen to a very ranty podcast about Ian McLeod's worst stories.
We did have a bit of a rant in that, it's true.
Now, he didn't have the decency of leaving exactly halfway through the year. So we've got a very small amount of Verity McLeod interim producer stuff. But really, I think we can still treat this as like,
This
the
is the
last
tail
phase
end.
of Ian McLeod.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Patreon that we just did was about his 5.5 year stint, wasn't it? And in fact, I don't think very much, if anything, was about what's happened this year. Maybe a little bit of yours was. But yeah, this episode is all going to be about looking about what's been going on in Coronation Street since January, since we made those predictions, prayers, and whatever the other one was. What did we do? Predictions, prayers, and pictures at the beginning of the year. That's it. How well it's matched up to our expectations, but there's no hiding it. It's been a bit of a rough year for Coronation Street, and the press for Corrie has been even worse.
The press has been terrible. Whenever I feel bad, I always think about what other people have said, and actually we're really nice.
I think we're generally quite nice. We don't pull any punches if there's something we really don't enjoy. But considering the slating that Corrie has had in the press this year, I think we've been.
It's been really tough.
A bit more level.
It's been quite demoralising. I don't like to contribute to that kind of thing, but it's kind of hard not to. But I just want to also say, if anyone's listening to this thinking about the changeover, the producers, new producer, blah, 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 just remember it's not really going to kick in until September and October, November. Kate Brooks is started, but her influence is not really going to be felt until the end of the year. And because there's still lots of storylines and scenarios set up from Ian McLeod and Verity McLeod, so just bear that in mind as we move through the year.
Yeah,
and
I mean, this
don't
year
be too hard on the new producer, because it takes a long time for things to sort of start to change, if indeed they will. We don't know how. We've got no indication from her what it is that she wants to do. She hasn't said status quo is what I'm about. She hasn't said I want to change everything. Don't know, so
she hasn't said anything. I think it's worth kind of starting off this podcast with a behind the scenes sort of chat. Yes, there's been all the negativity in the press, which has been awful, but also the first half of the year, the first few months of the year, I suppose, it was all the talk was who's next in the producer's chair, because it was the first,
that's right,
maybe the second week of January, we heard that Ian McLeod would be stepping down after his epic 5.5 year stint at the top. And I suppose that the fact that we didn't get an announcement of a producer straight away didn't help the rest of the negativity that was going towards Coronation Street, because it did feel like, to many fans, us included, that Corrie was struggling to find somebody who maybe wanted to do it or was capable of doing it. I don't know. It felt like there was a really uneasy period in the first few months of the year, didn't it?
I'm going to say it was really unpleasant, actually. I think it's fair to say we might be a bit more invested than the average person in this, even the average viewer. That we talk about it a lot, we think about it a lot. It's probably detrimental, the amount that we overthink this, but just that period of uncertainty and the fact that there was nobody, it feels like nobody wanted to do it, which be the new producer, which is really bad.
It's maybe that nobody wanted to do it.
I mean, I think to me it seems obvious that the money wasn't right, and so they couldn't. You can get anybody to do anything if you pay them enough money. That's the fact of life.
But it's also related to the number of people that are around that had the experience.
Yes, it was a very specific job description. Sorry.
Well, no, we didn't see the job description for this. We saw the job description for this executive producer position that Ian's ended up with, and I think it was on that second week of January, the 8th of January, I think it was, that we found out that he's got the exec producer position, and already the people who had been kind of baying for him to go were put on the, thinking, oh, so we've still got him then. I mean,
he's still going to be influential on the show. I mean, I think the thing about producer and executive producer, there wasn't one before. Kieran Roberts left,
did it before,
and then it was vacant. So Ian McLeod's been kind of doing two jobs. And then he's been promoted, and
people were ready for just a fresh start. And I know Kate Brooks kind of will be. It also feels like not really. Particularly because she's coming from Emmerdale, so she's got this soapy background. Some people have said, she used up all her best ideas on Emmerdale. When we've now had Kate, we've had the other Kate, we've had Ian, we had Stuart Blackburn, all coming straight from Emmerdale. And I think lots of people were hoping for some completely fresh new blood. And it's been so long since that's been a thing.
I don't know how practical it is to expect anybody to have the job experience that is required to be able to take on a soap who isn't from Emmerdale or EastEnders or something.
I mean, the other options were that somebody like Verity McLeod, Ian's wife, who had been the assistant producer or whatever the title was, that she steps up.
Assistant to the regional
But for whatever reason, that didn't happen. Or some people were wondering, would it be someone like Joe Parkinson, who was kind of high up in stories, who would take it on. But, he's... Yeah, that didn't happen. It almost... There were so few people that it could have been, and to me, it doesn't... I mean, I'm not particularly... I don't watch Emmerdale. I don't know what Kate's been like on that.
Don't know.
But like you said earlier, what's kind of unsettling to me still at the moment is it was March, maybe, when we heard that she'd taken the position. And aside from the welcome quote of, I can't wait to get my teeth into Corrie, or whatever it is she said, we've not heard a dicky bird from her. And this is 4 months later now? 3 months? I don't know. We've got no idea what her vision as producer is.
She needs to have one.
She really needs to get out there and say, this is... But particularly because of all the negativity that's aimed at Coronation Street at the moment, she needs to come out here and say, don't worry, this is what I'm going to do.
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I think she does. I can't believe she doesn't.
I don't have any evidence either way. That's the problem. I just really hope that she does.
That, like you said, there's been a lot of negativity. Most recently, even Charlie Lawson, who played Jim McDonald, talking about the fact that he'd spoken to Sarah Lancashire, ex-Corrie Starr, who played Raquel. They're saying Corrie's not as good as it used to be. That's a very popular refrain from ex-Coronation Street actors. I think that almost all of them will have a glory day that they look back upon with fondness. I don't think that's unusual. So
I wouldn't say that they're wrong either. I mean, just because they're saying that, it doesn't mean that it wasn't better back then.
Also, we've had, if you go to our YouTube channel, you will find our special video we did at the weekend, which was about the YouGov survey, which I think was, with no way of knowing this, probably commissioned by either Kate Brooks or maybe even Ian McLeod, to find out what people think about Coronation Street in general, talking about the different characters and some storyline questions to see what, take a litmus test of what the people are thinking. Because despite what we say and, all of our listeners and stuff, we represent a kind of a niche. We're not the typical watcher of Coronation Street. I think the vast majority of people are kind of like casual floating viewers who might tune in if something exciting's happening.
Probably
if
don't
they
listen
remember,
to podcasts about
definitely don't care enough to even go on Twitter to see what people are saying. So that will be a really interesting survey, and actually hopefully we can find out what the results were and talk about that at some point. So from that perspective, it is positive that they've commissioned this, because it must have cost a lot of money. But I think money is the key word here, because I do think ITV is struggling, and I think that they're cutting back. And
this is what the rumours are saying.
Coronation Street is probably a victim. It's got a massive, massive cast who are, like we all do, eating money. Who knows how many of them are going to stay on? I hope all my favourites do.
So the budget cuts are going to affect how many people can appear at one time. We're already seeing, and we have seen for a few years, the reduction of people in group scenes. We've seen the that there's fewer extras there. There seems to be less location shooting, although it's still going on to some extent. We saw with the shoe shop scene last week. And these kind of issues here, I don't know how much Kate Brooks is going to be able to do anything about. Also, the fact, and this is the other worry that people had when the new producer was being, when there was a bit of a gap for one, it was called the McLeod sandwich, wasn't it? If she's got Ian on top, Verity on the bottom, how much autonomy is she really going to have? Again, I don't know. We literally know nothing about what her Corrie manifesto is, and I really hope that she speaks up soon and gives us some hope for the future.
Yeah, I mean, uncertainty is one of the toughest things, isn't it? In anything.
Yeah. Apart from that, I mean, production-wise, Coronation Street this year, if I think, what do I think? What am I going to remember from 2024? Feels like the scheduling has been a bit more erratic than it had been in the past, We've got the football at the moment, the Euros are currently on, and you never know when Corrie's going to be on until maybe a few days before. We've had some 2-weekers, we've had some 3-weekers, it's been on at 8, it's been on at 9.
It's going to be on at, really late.
We've had, and there wasn't there football or something at the beginning of the year as well, because we went, I don't think it was until we got until March that we actually settled into the Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule.
That is a killer, honestly, and there's nothing anyone can do about it because ITV are never going to pass up the opportunity. This is the issue. Currently, like ITV and every other terrestrial broadcaster is always up against a vast wealth of really expensive TV on demand that people can access. And what they need to do is work on appointment television. And so that is why Coronation Street will take the back foot for any kind of sporting event. We've got the Olympics coming up. I'm sure that's going to
knock it out even more
as well. But
how long after the Euros finish do the Olympics start? It's probably within weeks, isn't it?
But you would be stupid to put off something that makes you money.
Especially if the rumours are true that we haven't got as much money.
But this is what appointment television is about, and this is why Coronation Street is actually in kind of a better place than a lot of other television. And I wish people would understand this about it. As long as there are shocks, surprises and twists and reasons to tune in, people are going to watch it. You cannot binge Coronation Street. It's a completely different animal to most other TV shows. Soaps are in a category all of their own, and as long as they keep exciting and surprising and enthralling viewers, there's going to be a place for them and they're going to make money. I know that the viewership goes down every year, but it's going to bottom out at some point, and we're not going to see much of a movement, I think.
We have been saying that for many years, though, and it has kept on.
But I stand by it. I stand by it. People keep saying the same thing about magazines. I know that I'm biased, but there's something about magazines that makes people want to buy them. I don't think that every single publication is going to carry on forever, but the medium's never going to die, and they feel very strongly the same way about soaps.
Yeah. Well, in order for people to be able to get to that appointment television, firstly, having them uploaded to ITVX, in our opinion, isn't going to help that, but I know that we're in a minority there. But it seems from lots of people online, they're loving this at the moment during the Euros.
I will say it is epically convenient for us to have it uploaded so we can watch it, because it is kind of a job for us, and so if we can fit it into other things and get it done early, especially on a Friday. This week Corrie's going to be on from 9 to 10. If this was a normal week and we couldn't watch it at 7 o'clock in the morning, not that we're going to watch it at 7 o'clock in the morning, but that would be a killer for us, because we wouldn't be able to start recording till probably 11:15, and that would be hard.
So hopefully we'll be able to get started a little earlier this week.
But the average viewer of Corrie, and it's a family show. I do wonder whether moving it later to 8 o'clock instead of 7:30, which was always its slot before, is that impacted? Kids aren't watching it as much, because kids, that's a late bedtime, isn't it? For kids.
But I just think as time goes on, kids are less and less interested in watching this sort of thing.
The point about soaps, how many people write into us, and how many times do we see people say, oh yeah, I used to watch it with my nan, used to watch it with my parents, and now I watch it too. It's like a family thing. And if you take away the element of family viewing, are you killing yourself in future? Has Ian McLeod actually done a canny thing with focusing so much on the teen element to try to entice maybe those viewers who are missing out on watching it with their parents or their families? I don't know. That's just stuff to talk about.
Go on. No, I was just going to say the other thing with the scheduling as well that's notable this year is that on weeks where there have been 2 episodes of Coronation Street, we haven't necessarily had a catch-up, which we would have done in the past. So by this point in 2023, we were 80 episodes into the year. This year, we're 77. So it's not hugely different, but there have definitely been some weeks where it's been 2 and stayed with 2. Which is interesting. I wonder when we get to the end of the year, are we going to be, 5, maybe even 10, especially with the Olympics coming up, like you said, episodes fewer than we had before. Is that a cost-cutting measure? I don't know.
Well, also, it's impacting the story because Steve McDonald's birthday is being celebrated on screen, actually. About a week
Well, his birthday was supposed to be last Friday, I think. So it's only just a few days.
Birthday. But are we going to get to the end of the year, and are we going to end up with fewer episodes? Are they going to catch up? I can't really see them doing a couple of weeks of 4s.
No,
I just can't see that happening.
Nor me.
Are people going to get paid less? The only way you say cost-cutting measure. But don't forget that there's an income that's not being generated because the adverts aren't being shown. So you can't, by cutting episodes, you're not necessarily cutting costs unless you take wages away, unless you take money away from people. How is that going to work? How is that fair? Who's the one that's giving up the money? I can tell you now, I don't think it's going to be the big names, the big stars. They're not going to do that to them. They're going to do it to the little people. They're going to do it to the people that, nobody knows who they are. Maybe makeup people, wardrobe, lighting.
Maybe.
Somebody's going to pay somewhere if they cut the episode count for a cut.
And it does show on screen because, like I said, we've had just so much in the press. I can't remember when exactly it started, but there have been various...
It's like poison.
Lots of people have said... As soon as McLeod's exit was announced, suddenly the press were like, brilliant, now we can start slagging it off. I know that, by the end of December last year, when Corrie didn't appear in the top 10 on the Christmas Day episode list, the press started to notice, didn't
they?
Press loved it.
They're like sharks.
Corrie fans have been saying for a while, it's not as good as it was. When's it time for McLeod to move on? But I saw lots of people saying, well, when are the press going to pick it up? We're all saying it, but the press is still saying, Corrie's wonderful, it's the best. I still love Corrie, but it did feel like a lot of the fans' views weren't being reflected. But now it's almost gone too far the other way, and it seems like you can't go a week or 2 without having another major publication basically saying the same kind of thing. Corrie's not what it once was. So let's have a think about, let's have a chat about the main stories and characters and stuff this year, and what good was there. What did we not particularly enjoy? What are we hoping for the rest of the 2024? If I'm kind of grouping some things together, some ideas together for 2024, it really has been a year of minor returns, hasn't it? I think that this year has been really notable, the amount of faces we've seen reappear on our screen that we haven't seen for a while. And I wonder, has this been a last minute strategy of Ian McLeod's, or is it just kind of convenient? I don't know. Now, obviously the biggest return that we've had this year has been Bethany. She arrived, I think she was New Year's Eve, wasn't she? Or maybe the 1st of January?
But can I just say, as a strategy, what would be the point? But it's just occurred to me because I've been wondering this myself. We've been seeing lots of returns, and I wonder, and this is like conspiracy theory territory. Everybody put your tinfoil hats on. How can that save money? I don't know, but now I do. Maybe. Does it cut down on casting? Does it cost money? Does it cost money? It must do.
To put the hunt out for new characters.
Look for people, get them in, audition them. You're paying a casting director or somebody. I don't know how it works. You're paying somebody to look. Have their hours been cut? Does that save a significant amount of money? I don't know.
I don't know.
But there must be a strategy. There's got to be a reason. Is it to get those people back, you know, the viewers that maybe have gone, oh, I don't really like her anymore. Oh, Bethany's back. I remember. I like that story. I'll see what she's up to.
Lucy Fallon was very popular back when she was in it
name.
the first time, and I think that certainly will have brought some people back. No, it's not what you were just saying. It's not like we've not had some new characters, but often a lot of the new characters, I've kind of thought 2024 has also been a year of new characters being brought in, but just for a little bit and then they go. Moses, for example. What was the deal with him? Everybody kind of liked Moses, didn't they? They even seemed to be starting to set him up with a bit of a romance for Todd.
Yeah.
Month later, back he's gone. Denny, like, oh look, Paul's dad is in the show. That seems to me like it should be quite big. How long was he in it? Week? 2 week max? Sabrina and Gav. I know they've been in it last year, but they've just been so underused. We've also had Demi this year. Really loved her. The idea of Steve going back on the dating game, I wasn't too sure about, because I kind of thought, well, you know, he's going to end up with Tracy again in the end, which I still think he will. But actually, having Demi come into it, she was such a fun character, and I was gutted when after 2-3 weeks, she buggered off again. You said about, you know, is it a good idea to bring back old characters that people who are lapsed viewers would maybe come back to? And maybe to some extent that's true, especially with Bethany. But a lot of the other names here haven't been quite big enough to get that, have they?
I think you're right.
I mean, Bethany, obviously the biggest one. I would say another particularly notable one for long-term Corrie fans this year has been Violet. So Violet hadn't been in the show for 15 years, Violet Wilson. I don't think loads of people were, you know, knocking down the doors at ITV to say bring back Jenny Platt on Coronation Street. And actually, they didn't do a whole lot with her when she was there. But that was,
it's a nice nostalgia hit.
Yeah, but she didn't integrate with anybody in the street outside of that bullying storyline. Didn't even see her old teacher Ken.
I don't know when she was last in Classic.
She's not been in Classic yet. Oh no, yes, she is. Sorry, she is on it at the moment. Yeah. Okay, she's just going through her first stint.
One thing that's sort of a bit of what's the word? Good and bad for Corrie. There's a more elegant metaphor, but I can't remember. Is Classic Corrie, because Classic Corrie's keeping Corrie alive. People watch it and love it, and it's you know, going through a heyday. People are enjoying it, but. Is that hurting main Corrie? Because people are comparing it and saying,
really is.
Classic is so much better. I love Classic. Is it then a good idea to go, well, people love Classic. Let's bring back Violet Wilson. Let's bring back, insert, you know. I
mean, the biggest coup to get back from who's big at the moment would be Shelley. And
they're not going to do it.
I really love them. That's the level of character they should be bringing back from the classic Corrie era from 20 years ago if they want to make a splash. Violet Wilson was never going to make a splash. Even having Natasha back a few years ago, and I know I don't want to stray too far away from the first half of 2024. A lot of people kind of liked her. We didn't like her as much, but you got to get the big names. In EastEnders, they had Michelle Collins' character back in the last few years. That's the kind of level that we need. Maybe? I'm not sure. But who have we had back in Corrie this year? Well, we've had Tommy Orpington, we've had Griff, we've had Stefan, we've had Linda, Estelle, Damon, Harvey, Nathan. Some of those names were big-ish. I mean, getting Nathan back was kind of interesting for a while.
They're all solid side characters. All of these people are solid side characters.
Yeah, that is really it. And Estelle was maybe only back for one episode. Even Damon and Harvey, when they brought them back at the beginning of the year, I wasn't over the moon about it because I don't particularly like the gangstery stuff too much on Coronation Street. But I was really surprised how long did it take for them to go? 3-4 months?
I know.
And that's it. What and a lot of the thing with a lot of these returns as well, of course, is they're returns from characters who've not long left the show. So Damon and Harvey, Damon, we last saw him last year. I think Harvey must have been the same as well. Stefan, we last saw 3 years ago maybe. Griff was last year. Tommy Orpington, I can't remember, but as we're on the subject of Tommy Orpington, actually, that has been a return. Say what you like about the story, I would say it's done the character wonders, because he was someone I was like, Tommy Orpington, who cares about him?
Yeah.
And I've actually really got to like him and
know
him and as a character. So fair play and well done to Matt Milburn for being able to bring that personality to the role. And although he didn't stay long, he's gone off to Spain with Tracy. I know he's just came back this week for the bust unveiling. I'm not expecting to see a whole lot of him, more for him to settle back in the street. That's actually been worthwhile for me. Getting the likes of Nikki back and Linda and yeah, even like Harvey, it didn't really bear fruit. And the thing about a return is it's got to be a whoa. I never thought I'd see them again. And a lot of these, I wasn't really thinking that. It was more a case of I saw them just recently. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do like returns, but they've not been the best crop this year.
I think the reason people don't like returns and they don't like new characters is because we have such a huge cast of pretty beloved characters. I think almost every character is going to have someone who really, really likes them, even if we don't personally.
Oh yeah.
Or we think they've gone off the boil. There are so many great characters on the cast, great performers, and they're not being used.
Mm.
And some of them perhaps are things we don't know about, health issues, personal issues, other projects that maybe they're not appearing for that reason. But on the whole, I think the cast is too big, and we need to focus more.
Yeah.
The trouble is, again, we said this before. If you're focusing on somebody, the workload is almost unmanageable for an extended period of time. So Coronation Street, by going to 6 episodes a week, is kind of, I don't know, shot themselves in the foot, really, for the cast.
There are some actors and characters I really would like to see used more, because we're getting these other characters in, getting the returns in, but where's Gail? We've not seen her at all. Well, maybe 7, 8 episodes maybe this year, and I'm talking double, so really that's maybe 4 episodes we've seen her. Audrey has been really nowhere to be seen, and I know that some of these older characters can't appear so much, but I still feel that I'm seeing enough Ken, for example.
Yeah.
Brian. Peter Gunn is a mega talented actor. We just never get to see it because all he's used for is these little throwaway nothings of stories. And in this year, it's been even less. One that I when I was looking at the episode appearances, the episode counts the other day, I was surprised how little we've seen of Ryan. Considering how huge he was last year, nothing.
Again.
Next to nothing this year.
If you want to be a conspiracy theorist and say a lot of this is down to money, is it because it costs so much money to get him done up?
Maybe, yeah. Get the Scarface on, maybe.
I mean, I don't think you get paid by the hour when you're a Corrie star, so I don't think it's to do with him being asked to come in early. But you have to pay somebody to do the prosthetics. You have to pay for the prosthetics themselves, don't you? Because they're, it's like a thing you put on the face.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm not too fussed or worried for Ryan Prescott that Ryan Connor hasn't appeared too much. There was almost a bit of an overkill with him last year, and everyone has their ebbs and flows. It's just some people's ebbs have been ebbing away too long. Gail, we've seen so little of the last few years.
I want more Shona and Dev.
Even Dev we saw a decent amount of the last few years. I am baffled. I'm really, really baffled with how much the Alahans have fallen out of favour, because they were one of Ian McLeod's real success stories, weren't they?
Did they get the award or just get nominated?
I think they got nominated for a Best Family.
Well, they should do.
But everybody seems to love what McLeod has done with them, and
Those
this year there's been nothing. But
those 3 actors.
There's been like little hints of maybe Hardy and Amy are going to get together, but nothing solid. Dev should be being used all the time. He's in his prime, I think, personally. Shona, no idea what's going on there. I know Jules has got a couple of kids now. Maybe this is her decision. Not sure. But those are some characters. And as always, Debbie Webster. You could... ever since that Sue Devane has been back in the show,
complaining that we want more Debbie.
I just don't get it. I really, really don't get what's going on there unless it's Sue saying, you know, I only want this many episodes, when in which case, fair enough. So yeah, there's more use of some of those characters would be good. I was also thinking about, because it's all, when you reflect back on the year, you know, what have been some really big, memorable scenes in Coronation Street in the first 6 months? And quite often you can get to the end of June, early July, and pick out a decent number fairly quickly of, I remember that scene, remember this episode, remember this really big moment. I don't think there's been as many this year. Whenever I'm kind of been talking in recent weeks about such and such that's been happening that's been good this year, I always seem to go back to the same very small, shallow pot, like, remember the speed dating episode? And it feels like I'm just constantly referencing that one, which was it was even just one half of an episode that was good there, because the second half was set the next day. We've had, some bits of the Britain Got Talent week were memorable. There's been a few, but honestly, there's not been the likes of, you know, last year, maybe it was just the Stephen story, but, you know, the LSD episode, some of the murderings that he got up to, the acid attack moment when, you know, everything through the episode, it felt like there were more, whoa, this is going to go on a compilation show. I'm not feeling like we've had as much of that this year. There was one that kind of stands out to me from the Paul episode, that episode of the Paul story, the episode where Billy agrees to help Paul when the time is ready for him to go. I thought that was particularly powerful and stood out. But yeah, do you know what I mean? It's just, I think maybe we'll say what you know, love it or hate it. The episode where Toyah was telling Nick about what happened with Rose 20 years ago was particularly memorable for me. I just don't know why, for me at least, there haven't been so many solid, memorable moments, and I kind of hope that changes in the second half of the year.
When you talk about moments, I think probably a lot of people are going to remember that week, you know, where everything reversed around, the coffee spilling at the beginning. We had Roy, we had Joel being revealed as the killer.
Oh yeah, sorry, you're right. The Joel being revealed as the attacker, I'm going to call him.
Yeah,
that's absolutely up there.
Just that scene, you know, that shot of him in the mirror. Great. But that leads me to thinking about one thing that I really like, and maybe this is us being biased because we are Corrie influencers, is the...
To our best.
Please watch it. The focus of the press team, which I feel has changed a little bit. I think they're trying new things.
Yeah, you're right.
And I like that, and I think that that's important, and I know, there's a lot of people disparaging it maybe. I don't know why. But I think that online, you can't escape it. It's very influential. There are loads of people, not Corrie influencers as such, like we are, if that's what even we are. But, you know, just casual TikTokers or Twitter people or whatever they are, getting them to talk about Corrie or engaging them in Coronation Street. Those free Roy Cropper t-shirts.
I really like that
gimmicky,
campaign. Totally gimmicky, but
good idea. I think whoever came up with that's good. That engaged people. That got people talking.
It got people talking positively in the press about Coronation Street. You're right. It wasn't. Yeah, I mean the Three the Weatherfield one. I don't know how much of that was engineered, but it felt like that really was the British citizens going, no, let Deirdre out of prison. This was Coronation Street saying, please campaign for Roy for us. Talk about this, and then people did.
Corrie at his peak has had members of Parliament talking, you know, in Parliament about stories, and that's been quite recent actually.
Yeah, we had
Tracy
Brabin a few years ago. Yeah,
but that's what Corrie needs, is to sort of engage, get buzz online, and. Well,
you're right. The free Roy Cropper, I really appreciated that, and it was nice of Coronation Street to do that little extra for the influencers. I hate that word. As well.
But also, they don't have this partnership with Co-op anymore, which is really sad. But when Co-op did the buns and things, that wasn't this year, but that's great. Also, they've got now their partnership with Argos and Sainsbury's. They're going to have Sainsbury's Extra, whatever it is. In I wonder if they're going to do any deals for food items with Sainsbury's. Sainsbury's seems like a step up from the Co-op, and I do have a soft spot in my heart for Co-op, but it is a corner shop kind of deal. Sainsbury's is like mega stores and stuff. Are we ever going to see a food brand partnership with own brand Sainsbury's doing something with Coronation Street? That would be, to me, very, very significant.
Maybe.
I think that benefits Coronation Street probably more than it does the partner.
Maybe. I would like to add as well, on talking about the press side of it and getting the word of Corrie out there and just engaging with the fans a bit more, that some of what's been going on in terms of behind the scenes stuff and other brilliant. Kind of Instagrammy, Twittery, TikToky moments that have been generated by Corrie had seemed to have stepped up a bit this year. There's been some behind the scenes, but there's been there was the day in the life of Callum Lill, I remember we had once. There was the chucking the t-shirt around. Do you remember? It's back on this Roy Cropper t-shirt again, when they were chucking it at each other and then it was cutting to people wearing it and then they pretend to take it off and chuck it to someone else. I love that. The thing that they did for Valentine's Day, was it Easter? I don't remember, when they were passing chocolates around to the cast. Yeah, that's right. I really, really did enjoy that.
Something Corrie, again, the metaphor I was looking for was double-edged sword.
Ah, yes.
And this is, again, one of those things where Corrie definitely would benefit from bigging up some of its... I'm trying to think of We've got household names, haven't we, on Corrie? We've got some newbies and some kind of... what's a nice... I mean it in a nice way. People that aren't famous.
Yeah.
People that aren't mega names. Corrie could really benefit from bigging them up, like they did with Callum Lill. And kind of making them stars in their own right. But then you get the issue of, then do we have to pay you more money because you're more popular? Are you going to bugger off somewhere else? Dunno. It's a bit of a risk sometimes.
Yeah.
But like Callum Lill, I know why they did it now, because Joel's an evil killer, and he's going to be probably one of the biggest characters this year. So that's why they did that. But that's the kind of stuff we really like, I think. But then again, how many Corrie fans care about that? I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, there's a whole world of different fandoms that Corrie can tap into, but how much do the actors really want to spend their time doing it?
Well, it's going to be interesting.
Makeup influencers, fashion influencers, even like niche things like gardening or whatever, making these actors personalities because of the characters, which is different from them having their own, social media presence, which is obviously them as a person, which is completely separate to Corrie. Don't know.
It'd be interesting, as you were talking about tapping into certain fandoms, how much down the route of #Swala they're going to be going in the second half of 2024, because they've
talk about playing
teased
with fire.
It a little bit. It really is playing with fire, and people are rabid for it. And if it is going to happen, it's been happening very slowly, hasn't it? Which I'm sorry, but at this point now, if they don't go ahead with the relationship between Carla and Spain, they're going to start having people turn against them. Yeah. Because the same thing happened with Carla. We're not going to go into it again. We've said it so many times. So yeah, I think
you risk the wrath.
I think saying. Engaging with fans has been pretty good. I will say, I don't want to get. It would almost feel like we're getting a bit positive during this. So just to bring it back down to earth again.
Oh yeah.
Get rid of the bloody white outlines on the YouTube thumbnails. They're terrible. I can't believe they've been going 6 months now. They did start at the beginning of this year, didn't they?
Someone's got to go and do that.
So it's somebody's job is to take a picture, take a still, cut out a character from it, put a horrible white outline around it, and say, "God, that's going to make it stand out."
I think it's just your aesthetic. Maybe
is there evidence?
I think
has it actually made people engage in the videos more? Because I think they're really horrible and ugly. Well, I just want them to get... I hate it. Okay, stories then. What have you enjoyed in terms of stories in 2024?
I kind of want to end on a high.
Okay.
So can we do what we didn't like, and then we do what was okay, and then we'll end with like some nice things and maybe some podcast stuff. Yeah.
Can I maybe ask for just a little sneak preview of the Patreon episode from the weekend where you went off on a massive rant about the Rovers owners, and how are you feeling about that now?
Do I feel lighter after my rant? Yeah, a little bit actually. I think I got a lot of stuff off my chest. I was very, very annoyed about some of the things I spoke about, and a lot of them, you know, are hallmarks of current stories, like women's health. But the Rover stuff with Carla and Daisy and Jenny, if you workshopped like a fan bait story about 3 really popular characters, all good-looking women, great thumbnails, put a big white outline on them, stick them on YouTube, you can get hundreds of thousands of views.
I thought you were saying that they had great thumbnails.
Yeah, they do.
Not those horrible big white bumps like old...
Lunalas, or whatever they're called.
Like Joel.
What a great idea. What a great concept for really interesting traditional Corrie drama. It's not an issue. No one's going to get sad. You don't have to get a charity liaison. You don't have to send, you know, Sally Ann Matthews off to kind of speak to victims of having their pub taken over. Just proper, traditional, no nonsense, straightforward drama, character acting, talented women, Corrie's like backbone for 60 whatever years. And what do? Nothing. What's the story with the Rovers? Carla's in charge. Is she? Yes, she is. Is she? No, she is. Really, she is. She fired Daisy, remember? But Daisy's working there again. Oh, yeah, she is, isn't she? But Carla's fine with it. What are you doing? What a stupid idea for a story.
It's been such a flub.
It was like Corrie Christmas. It was a great idea. What a brilliant concept for conflict. And they've just done nothing with it. Absolutely nothing.
There was a few weeks where there was, you know, Daisy wants to do this. She wants to organise a karaoke, but Jenny's not too keen on that.
Yeah, but that wasn't even to do with
the conflict between those two women, which could have been fun. I mean, I prefer them when they're united.
I thought that was kind of a bit stilted, to be honest with you.
Having those two steal Stephen's money to take the Rovers did feel massively dodgy at the tail end of 2023, but I kind of held out the hope that maybe something huge is going to come from it.
Yeah, we thought that was going to be the story of 2024.
Yeah, nothing. And now we're barely even seeing, you know, Jenny or even Daisy. Oh, God, we're not seeing any of them in the Rovers. We're seeing, you know, Glenda. There's nothing wrong with Glenda. I like Glenda. But
genuinely taking the phrase silent partner to its utmost extremes.
Yeah,
we don't even know what the nitty-gritty of the business deal was. Not that I care, but don't set it up then.
The fact that Carla has kind of gone with, well, you know, then go on then, I won't take you to the police. I hate it when and it happens so often in Coronation Street that somebody finds out that they've been wronged because of some other drama or climax that had to be built up in another episode, and then they go to the police station, which has got another break time cliffhanger, and then they get there and turn around and change their mind, and then it could have just kind of put it to bed. And this Rover's story was just the epitome of that. It's been really, really unfortunate.
Yes, unfortunate is a great word. If you want to hear me ranting at length about very many of these issues, then please do join our Patreon. You can access my complaining for £4.50 a month, and you get access to all of our Patreon
It's not complaining
episodes.
Every month, but this was
just this month.
Quite a corker this month, I'll tell you that.
Because really, I did unleash my fury on it. Oh man.
That's been kind of the thing.
It's like, right, okay. It's like if you go to a restaurant.
Here we go. Once you get started,
right? Would you like a beautifully cooked? A beautifully cooked sirloin steak with peppercorn sauce and French fries, and you go, oh God, I'd really like that. Thank you. That's like one of my favourite things. And they go, haha, it's a pot noodle. Take it. And then they just chuck it in your face, and all the noodles stick to your face, and then you get 3rd-degree burns. It's kind of like that.
It is a bit like that. Other stories that have really not worked so well for me this year, if we're starting on the negative and working our way up to the positive, I've really not liked the gangster stuff. I mean, the the silver lining is that it was over pretty quickly. But that New Year's Day episode where Adam gets kidnapped by Damon, that get a bag stuck on his head, and then he gives.
Sake, man.
It's just that's not what Corrie's about.
Nobody thought he was going to die. Where's Damon now? Gone. What happened about that? Nothing. Don't know. Man.
I think whatever they did with that story, it wouldn't have worked for me. I just don't enjoy that organised crime sort of stuff, and Harvey giving his orders from prison, trying to get Adam to get that dying bloke to confess that he shot Natasha, the prison scenes, Adam sending CCTV footage of this bloke to the police, then he gets mown down on the street but the car was actually targeting Bethany.
You're going to say moaned at rather than mown down.
No, I just that stuff is not fun to me. The characters involved weren't the most compelling. That's and I don't think I'm alone on that, but I think that lots of people probably did enjoy that
Loads
stuff.
Of people liked Harvey and Damon.
It's not been for me. It really, really hasn't. I suppose maybe to me the most interesting kind of linked bit to that story has been Sarah sniffing around Gary, and I did quite like the scenes where they were kissing and Maria was catching them on camera. That was quite salacious. Nothing's happened there since at all. So that hasn't particularly worked for me. Anything else for you that you want to get off your chest?
I know you don't like the Shuttleworths at war, and I agree with you. I think.
Oh yeah.
Glenda and George are both kind of very simple comic characters, and by that I mean, yeah, they don't really have lots of personal backstory plots, and you don't really need them because they're both really charismatic. They're very popular in their own right without being in Corrie. And then to set them against each other and make them both petty arseholes. And the solution...
They really both have been, haven't they? Neither of them have come out of this story looking good.
And I know almost every story can be solved with like a sentence. But at the very beginning of the story, when the whole dilemma about the will came up, we all said, oh, why don't you just give her the house? And then it took us 2 months or something, and he just give her the house.
I don't know whether the story's over now. We've seen Monday's episode this week, and the two of them seem to come to some agreement. But you're right, it's an agreement that could have been come to very early on without going through all this unpleasantness.
Two fun, light-hearted characters and make them argue over something really upsetting.
I just wouldn't believe that they would take each other to court.
I would.
Well, I would now, but before I wouldn't have done.
That's why I'm glad I'm an only child.
I mean, Glenda, they've tried to give more personality to, and to be fair, we had been asking for it. Glenda had been such a side character in the Rovers, and they say, oh, give Glenda a storyline, and they haven't. She just, unfortunately, doesn't look too good. But I do 100% believe that Jodie Prenger has got the charisma, the personality, the energy, etc., to come out of this, and then this little whole will debacle will just be like a little side note in the character history, and we'll hopefully forget that it ever happened. She needs to go back to being the big brassy. Although I'm still thinking this PTSD stuff that happened the night the Rovers was broken into might rear its ugly head again, and then there'll be more misery for Glenda. I did feel bad for her this week when she was looking sad behind the bar at the Rovers, and George was like, oh, maybe I should try and compromise with her. But I'd rather Glenda was a character who was, I think now, fun, lively, heart and soul of the Rovers, you know. That story's not particularly worked for me. The Alia and Adam story didn't really work. Sometimes the excuses, the stories that they have to come up with to have an actress go off on maternity can be a bit far-fetched, don't they? Because at the end of the day, the character has to leave. And in real life, maybe that doesn't happen quite so much, that people just disappear off for 9 months. But I'm not shipping those two at all. Same with Cassie and Kevin. That was it seems like it was over pretty quickly, but that whole thing of Cassie trying to get into Kevin's pants didn't sit right with me. No, not that Kevin and Abby I'm mega a fan of. I'm still not sure how well they work as a couple, but I went into this year really hoping that Cassie would go on the up. We really enjoyed Claire Sweeney when she first came into the show. That scene that was on about a year ago in the hospital with her and Evelyn was brilliant. And there was a bit of criticism of the character, saying how unpleasant she was, and we kind of fought for her towards the tail end of 2023, didn't we? But there wasn't a whole lot to like about her when she started trying to just make life difficult for Abby and get into Kevin's pants. But I think that it has been really good for her, sicking her with Ken these past few weeks. And there have been a few other stories this year that she's been semi-involved in where she's come out a bit more pleasantly. But I think this Ken could hopefully be the making of her, but I'm just never really quite sure where they're going to eventually settle with that character. Russell T Davies said recently that, give her 3 years, she'll be full face of makeup behind the bar of the Rovers. I'm not sure that that's a foregone conclusion yet.
No, but I like his comment.
And having an actress the calibre of Claire Sweeney, they should be making full use of her, and I don't think they quite are yet.
No.
But I don't know how much she's on this Good Ship Murder programme, isn't she? I don't know when that gets filmed. Was that filmed ages ago? Was that filmed before she started on Corrie? I don't know how many other projects that she is concurrently doing, which means that she can't commit fully to Coronation Street. Really, really not sure. Anything else?
What about more kind of like not sure either one way or the other stories? To me, Simon's exit was a bit kind of like.
It wasn't a bad story, but equally, it's not one for the ages, was it?
I mean, again, I'm sorry, but it was emblematic of the character.
Bit of a shrug of a story. I wasn't too interested in the alcoholism coming back. I was kind of interested in him getting involved with the Institute, because that has been something that's been really positive for me. But then they kind of veered away from that, didn't they? Just to have him say, "Oh, and a job's appeared on Peter's boat, so he can just go there."
It was kind of. Was it? I don't know. A bit of
no,
a waste of time, maybe.
Yeah, so that I'm not down on that per se. I would say that somewhere where I'm sitting more firmly in the middle is the Roy and Lauren story.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no, I can't agree with you.
You're feeling more positively about that, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
There's bits of it I've loved, there's bits of it I haven't. And what people are saying about the fact that this is to do with Lauren, which is a character that a lot of people don't have any investment in, I think I'm certainly feeling that.
To me, I get what people are saying, and I certainly do agree that it could be better if you felt more positive emotions to the person that's missing. But I don't really care. I'm still enjoying it one way or the other. I probably maybe would enjoy it more if I cared about the person, like maybe if it was sort of Tina in her heyday. But
I think the other things that are dragging this down slightly are some of the other characters that were involved. So it's at times it can be very Bethany heavy, it can be very Bobby heavy. Bobby's been in the show for 6 months now, hasn't he? And I think he has gone up in some people's estimations. It felt like he was, you can believe what you want online. People who hate things will always shout the loudest, but it really felt like there was universal hatred for Bobby after that Boxing Day episode, wasn't there, where he first came in just spouting all these one-liners, and he's not doing that so much now.
The weird thing is that he went, "Oh, Carla, I'm going to move in with my nan," and she went, "Oh, don't." But it's like they didn't, like the scriptwriter wrote that, but didn't tell the production team. Because he hasn't been in it since. But he might as well have been with his nan. Why on earth would they have written it so that he stayed with Carla, but we haven't seen him?
That part of the story, some of the characters involved haven't been the most exciting for me. And also the fact that there was no real peril for Roy, because we know that he wasn't going to be sent down for murder. He wasn't going to be spending the rest of his life in bars. He wasn't going to be bumped off by Griff or Roscoe in prison. He'd be fine, because we've seen it happen to Gail, to Sally, to Abby, to so many people who've been wrongfully imprisoned in the past. So in that sense, it didn't do so well. But I have enjoyed that there's been a mystery. Coming into this year, we wanted there to be something that in some way rivaled the EastEnders 6 last year, which we only know of from hearing about it and from catching the Christmas Day last year. But who's the boyfriend? What happened to her? Who knows? How
did he do it?
How did it happen? And also bringing in some other characters. Is they involved, or is it a red herring? Bringing back Nathan for this, fantastic idea, because suddenly everyone was looking at him. I do think that maybe not enough it wasn't. I think lots of people were saying, "Oh no, it probably wasn't him." By the time they brought him in, but maybe that's because. I don't know. I don't think many people were, as soon as they saw Nathan on screen, went, aha, it's definitely him then, did they? Maybe we did. I don't really remember. But I wonder how much Corrie wanted us to suspect Joel, because he was quite a prime suspect for a lot of the beginning of the year, wasn't he? And then when it was revealed, aha, it actually was Joel. Probably a big surprise for some people. Callum Lil's nan, at least.
Oh, I love her.
But it was a bit of that's kind of who we thought in the end. But that doesn't detract from the moment of the reveal and all the stuff surrounding that with Kit planting the evidence in the car.
I love
because
it.
No,
Kit's
it's not negative. This is a mixture. This is because I've got my positives, I've got my negatives about it.
Right, my biggest negative of this, and I think I'm on the whole very, very much into this story. My biggest thing about this is I am controversially going to say I feel like it's ruined Roy's character.
Oh, why?
He hasn't dealt with it very well, which of course is in real life totally understandable. I feel very empathetic to people. Personally, I feel like I am not a very resilient person. I don't deal very well with setbacks. I live in my head too much. I feel people are getting at me when maybe they aren't.
You do.
And Roy has just been the epitome of that. And I don't think it makes a very sympathetic character. And I complained about him in the Patreon episode, and I accused him of using Nina as his emotional support animal. And I think he really did. I think he's a grown man. And I know he's having a mental health issue. But again, I'm going to say that it's quite difficult for a soap to really depict that well, especially with so many other people having similar issues.
Well,
because you don't live in the person's head. You can't... It's really hard to sympathise with someone who is going through mental health issues when you only see their actions, because their actions are driven by some very, very dark and unpleasant and understandable motivations and thoughts, right? So you can if you live inside someone's head, you could really, really feel for them and understand. But when you're just seeing how they act, what is the difference between someone being an arsehole because they're a deep emotional trauma that they're going through, and then being an arsehole because they're an arsehole? There's no difference.
Don't ask for what's inside their heads too loudly, otherwise we're going to get some more nightmare sequences or wibbly-wobbly camera effects.
I agree with you, and that's why it's tricky for a soap, because we all do appreciate the importance of addressing mental health issues and knowing, educating us and helping people understand each other is a really noble cause, right? But at the moment, all I've seen from Roy is him refusing to talk to anybody, only making Nina be his one and only contact for when everybody else is trying to talk to him too, alienating Carla for, fairly good reasons, I guess, and now shutting himself in his room and not talking to anybody.
It does fit into the mould of it fits into the mould of what's happened to lots of other characters who've had these big stories, which has involved a lot of trauma.
To a man for once.
Yeah, it happened to Yasmin after Jeff.
It's always been
it happened to Leanne after Ollie died. It happened to Nina after the Seb attack.
It's happening to Toya.
Yeah, Toya at the moment is still...
Carla.
Yeah, so I'd like, maybe as unrealistic as it would be to real life, to see a little bit more bounce back ability with some of these characters, and for them to find their feet and say, I'm fine now.
Coronation Street isn't a story, isn't a mental health programme. It shouldn't focus so much on it, and I know that's really hard of me to say, but I just worry that it's not really helping anybody, because it's depicting people as kind of like helpless victims or nasty, objectionable reactionaries, which is not how is that helpful to depict trauma and PTSD as like someone's just going to be a bit boring for a year?
So you said that you wouldn't call this even as a mixed story, even though you've got some issues with it.
My biggest problem is Roy, and I'm open to feedback about it. I don't think I'm going to agree with you, and I don't want to be thinking this. And having had mental health issues myself, I don't want to be saying this about Roy. I like Roy. I think he's great. Not in the past few months though. Sorry.
Something I want you to talk a bit more positively about this one.
Maybe I'm just a nasty person. No, maybe I am. Maybe some other people are more can more easily empathise. But I'm just trying to look at it from a more broad perspective as well as my own, and I just can't see how this is good.
I want you to say a minute about what you enjoyed about this story, but just let me get one other thing in that's not worked so well to me. It was that thing with Bobby lying to the police about seeing a man in the flat who just so happened to match the description of Daniel with the coat, and then Carla went along with his lying to the police, and then at the end of it, he just got let off with a bit of a slap wrist. It was another perfect example of no consequences. That really did irritate me, but. There has been lots of great stuff with this story as well, hasn't there? Not least the rejuvenation of Joel.
I love Joel now. I like the mystery. We still don't know what happened to Lauren. I love even the montage of Roy. I like the red herrings. I think they did mess up a little bit with giving us some clues and not really. But again, it's not a murder mystery show. It's not a mental health show. So when they do those things, they kind of don't always do them that well.
With the after Joel was revealed as the killer, the fact that Coronation Street then put on their social media, here's all the clues that you missed that it was Joel, and they didn't really come up with much than remember the necklace. It felt like they could have.
We did a better job than they did.
They could have put the breadcrumbs in there a little bit better. But I do love a mystery, and this story for me has certainly delivered in terms of that. I just think they shouldn't leave it too much longer before they reveal a little bit more about what happened to Lauren, if she's dead, how did he get rid of the body, if she's alive, something. She can't be dead. She can't be dead, can we? So don't drag it on for too much longer. I don't think there's many people that are thinking now that she's dead. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Another thing I don't like is Tommy and Tracy.
Is this on your negatives or is this on your neutrals? Because that's a neutral for me.
On the one hand, I love Tommy Orpington. I think he's great.
But you'd have a bust of him in your bed, wouldn't you?
I do have one, yeah. But I think they bungled the breakup of Tracy and Steve, and it happened at the same time as another breakup. What was it? I can't remember.
Oh, I don't know.
It's just too many of them happening at the same time. But it really felt like there was one breakup between one couple and another breakup of another couple, and Tracy and Steve are the most established, iconic characters and couple.
One of the most long-term couples on and off over the years. So why make them the
comedy breakup? What Tracy kind of acted like a complete automaton at certain points. Like she was like, yeah, I'm done with it. She was the one who was the driving force between getting them together. She pined over Steve for years, and then she just threw it all away because she suddenly decided she was a bit bored. They didn't do enough groundwork.
Steve's reaction to it all being comedic was funny at times, but it really undermines the breakup severity.
They're both kind of light-hearted characters. Yeah, they are, but they're both bloody good actors, and they both have had dramatic stories. Why was this any different? Because I think they knew that they had too many similar stories going on, and they wanted one to be less heavy than the other.
It did still allow for some really funny moments. I mean, particularly, I think almost some of the best bits, comedy-wise, for this story have been Sally, who's been used so little this year. But if I think of some of the best Sally moments this year, or just the best comedy moments full stop, I think of the scenes where she's doing all the double entendres about, Tommy's looking at my bedroom ceiling, or he's going to give me a good seat, or what, I can't remember what it was now. That was hilarious. Tommy's been up in the bedroom, he's been at it all night, that sort of thing. And also, and it was still related to this Tommy and Tracy story, the Demi scene, the dinner party where Sal was trying to rub shoulders with Debbie, is like, oh, you got a semi-demi. Brilliant. That has been so good for this story. And the other positives for that one for me were, we did get to see more of Tracy, at least, because she's been very underused recently. Tommy, I was pleasantly surprised by what they did with the character, I said earlier.
One thing you said that I totally agree with in a short recently is that Sally is one of the most consistent comedy characters on Coronation Street, and I really think she's underrated for that.
She is. They don't use her much, but it's so
hits.
rare that Sally will miss, and that's a combination of the writers and Sally Dinaver herself. There's so few characters where every single line that's supposed to be funny actually is.
To defend the other characters, I think, and not to diminish it, but I do think Sally's easier to write for because the snob is just easy.
Yeah, it's a tropey, it's a...
Yeah, it's an age-old, especially in this country,
yeah.
trope. But Kirk is harder because his is based on clever misunderstandings, and Mary is flights of fancy about her mum. I don't think she's mentioned her, so maybe she's died.
I don't know.
I haven't mentioned her for a while.
The other thing, kind of tangentially to the story that's worth mentioning, and it ties in with what we were saying earlier about bringing characters in for just a short stint. Elspeth. What's that about? Getting Helen Lederer in for one episode to have that date with Ken when he was supposed to be being Steve's wingman. What?
You won't be able to convince me that it wasn't a reciprocal agreement between her and someone at ITV to say you can come on another show and talk about your book, but you've got to do half an episode of Coronation Street for free.
It's seeming like that.
How?
That was bizarre. But on the whole, I'm relatively positive about this story. It's not going to be a contender for story of the year, but I've fairly enjoyed it. I would also say the same with the Abby deepfake story. It's been okay. It's been a little bit grubby. Good seeing Stefan again. Bizarre that Corey at times was mentioned quite heavily, but we never saw Max Evans at all on screen playing him. Abby's been so underused in the past few years. She's still a fantastic actress. She's one of Corey's best actresses, so it's been good to see that. But deepfake is not even original in Corrie these days because, Maria had deepfake. We talked on the Patreon the other day about the fact that Kathy was deepfaked. How many Corrie women are going to get deepfaked into 5 years? Yeah, are going to get deepfaked into a porn video, and this is the main story, isn't it? Out of all of them, this is the one that's biggest, but it doesn't feel so original. But it's been okay. It's been all right. I think that the Bailey stuff has been fine to me.
It was sad. I didn't
mind the fire. Really sad that Aggie's left, but I'm glad that it's been stated on screen at least because we've been speculating for so long.
Based on what happened, yeah.
I'd go. I think it's about as plausible as they could do. If my secret gambling addiction
resurfaced. Because they lost their house and she tried her best and he did it again. And after a certain point you have to say it's me or you. You know. I can only save myself, so...
Speaking of the Baileys, I mean, Dee Dee has been still going strength to strength in the past 6 months, hasn't she?
Dee Dee's
I think she's still the most appearing character in 2024 so far.
One thing I'll give Ian McLeod is that he's introduced some stellar characters. Not very many, but enough to really, I think, give him a thumbs up.
Yeah. Anything else kind of middling? I mean, Fizz coming back was great, but she's been in 4 episodes, so what's going on there?
Dom and Eliza, I'm glad they're gone.
That to me, my positive thing that I can say about the Dom and Eliza story is that it didn't monopolise too much of my time. They went to Germany at Christmas, they came back, we saw a few bits of it, they were gone again, or Eliza was gone again, Dom's gone, Stu's stayed, but we haven't seen much of it, so in a way that's been a positive that it's not been, hugely taking up of my time.
Right, positives.
Come on, I didn't want this to turn into just a moan fest, but there's no beating about the bush that Corrie has been in better states, hasn't it?
My favourite things that have happened recently are Joel becoming a killer, love it. He's interesting. He's fascinating. I love this relationship with him and Dee Dee. What the hell's going to happen? Now he's moving in with her. How is he going to hide his dark, sordid addictions? I don't know. But I love that. I love the Institute stuff and the cult things. I get a feeling I'm not going to like where it's going next and probably won't be talking about that. So don't expect much from me on it. But I do really like Rowan, all the intrigue, what's going on? Is Willow really in charge? Don't know.
I'm gonna say,
will Leanne get to level 6? Can't wait to find out.
I am gonna say that, but I'm gonna say maybe a wide margin, the Institute has been my favourite new storyline of the year. The Paul M&D, which is my favourite of 2023, is still bubbling along fairly nicely. They probably could have had fewer periods where it didn't appear on screen, but the Institute, it sounds ridiculous on paper, and I'm still a little bit disappointed that it hasn't gone nuttier. I'm still disappointed.
I want it to be more camp.
It could have been camper. I mean, Rowan Emrys Cooper is doing his best. He's brilliant.
He is great.
He's so good.
He's got great hair.
But I'm disappointed that, you know, it's not going quite down the cult in Nirab, and the fact that the cult in Nirab hasn't even been mentioned, even though these characters were right in the centre of it back 25 years ago. That's bizarre. But
how many cults do you nearly
Jane
join
Danson has been absolutely superb in this storyline. I'm loving seeing her still being a massive cow, but also sometimes being really positive. The silly pseudo computery jargon that the Institute use is hilarious. Toya versus Rowan, I have absolutely adored. I've been wanting more Toya and putting her as the thorn in his side, and yet him still smiling all the way through it because he thinks he's so in control. He's massively smug and smarmy.
Really
he has been brilliant. I've got really nothing bad to say about the Institute story. I'm enjoying how maybe Amy's starting to get sucked into it now.
One thing I will say about it that I really find refreshing, and it's probably mostly because of this podcast, that this is such a big deal to me, is that it's not an issue. I don't feel like I gotta say,
be careful what you say, just in case there's any cult members out there listening.
I know, but yeah, obviously, now you've made it worse. But obviously, like, it's a really hard thing, and when it happens, it's awful. But it's like it doesn't feel real. I don't think, because it's a fake cult. I
think the fact it's a fake cult definitely helps.
It's not like a name you can say, oh, I know someone who was in that, or so my mum's in that. Or...
Not that there aren't elements that are quite similar to other well-known cults out there.
Equally,
naming no names.
I don't think in this country we really have a big problem with it.
I'm not hearing about, on the news or in the day-to-day life.
And said, like quite often these issue stories, someone will write in, or we'll hear somebody say.
Although wasn't Emrys Cooper? Wasn't the story that his parents were?
But he's doesn't listen to us.
No, you never know.
I know, but I'm not.
Might do it for a quick ego boost
Why
every now and then.
Why are you trying to, every time I'm making
No, I'm not. I'm completely agreeing with you.
I'm not sitting here going, oh no, I can't really enjoy this because this is someone's real life experience. It's just a silly cult that it's just a fun story, and I'm enjoying. I just like to enjoy the character interactions. I think that anything that's a vehicle for big legends, because all of these characters, Nick, Toya, Leanne, legends, icons, fantastic actors, years and years of character background building up to this.
I thought you were going to say something else then about Toya's character background that's maybe not come out of this quite so well. I still will say I don't have that much of a problem, and I still don't get why I don't have that much of a problem, because it was clearly clearly not pregnant in 2001, but I'm for some reason, maybe because I'm caught up in the story so much, putting that to one side and going along with Corrie's line of, well, maybe she was actually.
I think...
And that scene where she opened up to Nick was just brilliant. It's just a shame that it's turning into some horrible affair, which I'm very mad about.
All the extraneous nonsense they've added to this, I feel like I want somebody to send me a sorry card about it, because they're ruining a really great story. I don't want to hear about affairs. I don't want to hear about other things that I know are going to come up. I don't want to hear about babies. It's a cult story. Why are we adding this stuff extra to it?
The only babies that I want to hear about is AI Ollie.
No, not even that.
I love it. I love that.
I know you do, but that's something else again. Don't add any of this extra stuff on top. You're complicating things, and you're adding elements that don't need to be added, and you're taking stories that could be their own thing and you're making them a side quest on something else. We don't need a continuous side quest for every goddamn story, so let's just keep the Institute pure and fresh. And I'm sad to tell you that this is probably the last time I'm going to be talking about that storyline for a while.
What else have we got this year? We got...
Bullying.
That's gone down really well online, hasn't it?
On the TikTok. The kids are loving it.
If I'm kind of rating a story from 0 to 10 about how much I've enjoyed it, it's the bullying isn't in the upper echelons for me. It's not a 9 or a 10, but for lots of people it has been. So I'm really pleased with the people that have connected with it and supported it and gone along with it.
It's in a weird state where I think that there are two big groups that really connect to this: the parents and the kids.
And the kids who've been through bullying themselves
and
are currently
I have
going
had
through
that experience. I haven't had it like online and how this is a completely different beast entirely. But the people that have been hooked by this have totally been hooked because they've done a very good job. Haven't they?
Tell you what I will say to me personally, and I know lots of people have said, wow, Charlie Renshaw, amazing, Maria Connor, wow, oh my gosh, she's been fantastic in her reactions. To me, the thing that I've enjoyed most has been Sean. Anthony Cotton, I've always kind of rated as an actor to some extent. Sean, I've always defended as a character, partly because I like a bit of the underdog and he's not been the most popular characters. But some of those scenes where he found out that Dylan was involved in sending those abusive, homophobic texts to Liam, he's had a couple of scenes, hasn't he, this year, where he's gone off on one at his son and he has owned it. And the people online have been saying fair play to Anthony Cotton. That was a great performance. So I really, yeah, absolutely. I've loved that. So I'm really pleased that Corrie gave Sean and Anthony a chance to do those scenes. Luca Toolan's been good. There's all the stuff with the zombie knife and being sneakily hidden in number 11 has been fun.
Yeah, but then they got kicked out and it didn't stick.
I know. And like I said earlier, what it's led to with Maria and her spy cam and catching Gary and Sarah, I've been quite enjoying. I think that Charlie Renshaw's has been pretty decent. There have been, I've not known like who's the main teen in this. Is it him? Is it Dylan? Sometimes it's a little bit of Luca, of Mason. It's not personally been up there right at the very top for me, but it's definitely been a bit of a shining light in, if you just take the stories as a whole and say what's working well for Corrie this year.
One thing that's worked very well, especially online, is upgrading Lisa Swain to
now she's giving her a first name for a start.
I'm going to say it's a very soft launch though. I was really expecting to see a lot more of Swain. Once they told us she's going to be a regular, I really thought that we would get under her skin a bit more. I thought we'd see more of her as not a copper, and I definitely thought we'd see where she lives by now. I'm still waiting for that. I'm hoping that there's going to be more of that. Whether or not she ends up with Carla, I think, if she does, that's going to be the big key, isn't it, to making her a regular character that makes sense. And maybe they're going to have to kick Bobby back out again because... get
that room set up for the Swains. I think not long after we heard that she was being made a regular character, we did see a few more scenes with her and Craig just talking about what she's having for tea. And
I know, but I felt like there was going to be more.
I did as well, but they're taking their time. They're doing it slowly. It's fine.
Yeah.
And now we've got Betsy as a main character. I mean, she's had the publicity shoot. She's had the interviews. It looks like Betsy is here to stay.
As well,
maybe have a cast card. I don't know. But I think now finally we're going to see a little bit more of that family dynamic between the two of them. I'm really, really excited to see how it goes, and I'm really chuffed for Vicky Myers, who, thank you very much for coming onto the podcast for a chat earlier this year, Vicky.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to where that's
going. Big supporters of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned mentioned the Ken and Cassie story is kind of going along nicely so far. I don't know how much of it we're going to see because there is only so much that William Roach is going to be able to appear on this. But that could be good for the redemption of Cassie. But I do worry that it'll be hard to resist the urge to get her to do something horrible. Because that seems to be like Cassie's
Deirdre's classes.
Yeah, that's kind of
to
fun,
what depths else can she possibly sink?
And the Paul MND storyline, still been pretty solid. I think they had the camping trip at the beginning of the year, the camper van trip where they ended up stuck in the mud in the rugby field was
with
good.
Orange toilet paper.
Yes.
Do you think that was symbolic of like the behind the scenes of Coronation Street, like using our colour?
I think it was a tribute
to kind
to
of wipe
Conversation
Gemma's
Street.
arse with to say what they really think about our show, criticising them continuously.
As much as this story, I think maybe could have been used a little bit more. I've still been so impressed with Peter Ash.
Wonderful.
Oh my god. Like this week, he seems to have deteriorated more, the character, hasn't he?
I could barely understand what he was saying at points.
I'm wondering
which I think was great. Really brave performance, honestly, from Peter Ash, because that's a very tricky thing to do. It takes a lot of confidence. And
it could have so easily felt
I think
artificial and acted, but it doesn't.
To kind of like put myself in his shoes, and this is all just me imagining because I have never spoken to him. I met him once at the start.
Met him very briefly on the start,
But I imagine he feels a big commitment to people who are suffering from MND because he's spoken to them. He's had liaisons with people. I know that I think he's spoken to people who have since, passed on from having MND, and the responsibility that he must feel to get it right. And I think he's doing a brilliant
doing
job.
He deserves all the praise and the awards and the recognition.
One of the best performances in Coronation Street currently.
Yeah, absolutely.
And who would have ever guessed? And it feels criminal to me how underused Paul has been as a character, knowing what was lurking there and never used. And this is why
he's just been one of the 3 gay dads.
Well, yeah, I know this is why it frustrates me because I say this all the time, but the cast of Coronation Street are insanely talented and you get mere glimpses of it. It's like an iceberg because there's just not enough time to give everybody centre stage. But when you do, they really almost universally live up to it.
I would say, and this harkens back to what I was saying earlier on in the episode, put out there that there haven't been as many truly big memorable scenes in this story as there were maybe last year, where we had like the bathroom scene, the skinny dipping scene, the wedding scene. I don't think there's as many I can put my finger on and say, remember that moment. Probably the biggest one still for me is when Billy agreed to help Paul out when the time was here. I quite enjoyed the barbershop quartet episode on Valentine's Day where his old mate was kind of ruining stuff for him. It's just been okay in terms of big stories. But Bernie has continued to go from strength to strength. Jane Hazelgrove as well, massively gone up in my estimation in the past year.
All of the Winter Browns and all of the families associated with them have only benefited from this story because they are so much more sympathetic. They've had more time. We've been with them, and they've all turned in great performances. And that's one of the things I said. If you watched our YouGov survey
episode
video, that's one of the things I mentioned. Brilliant.
And the introduction of Kit could have gone wrong. It was ever so slightly unnecessary. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, I complained about the Institute story adding extra bits on top. If I don't know how I can hold my head up high, if not to criticise this edition, but actually I don't really mind it.
I don't mind it too much
because I find Kit quite compelling. I don't. Yeah. He's not necessarily likeable, is he?
He has his moments.
He's very manipulative.
I liked him on Monday episode, massively manipulative, and
also
it's the same with like Daisy, the same with Cassie. I'm invested in you, really nice, and then you do something just to make me disappointed.
You're right though to put those 3 characters together. Because one thing that they all do is delight in other people's misery.
Yeah.
And I think if you watch Coronation Street, I think you got a streak of that yourself, because you can't enjoy watching a soap if you don't delight in misery a little bit. And the fact that Kit
makes you think, well, at least my life's not as bad as theirs.
The fact that Kit lit a match and set fire to the entire Winter Browns and then walked off smiling was kind of admirable, but only for a fictional character.
What's most interesting to me is that planting of the evidence.
Yes.
In Britain's Got Talent Week, and putting that hair in the back of Nathan's van. I think that
hope there's more to come for that. Please don't let that be one of these horrible loose ends and red herrings that don't go anywhere.
I've seen some people suggesting that maybe he and Sarah could end up together. That wouldn't surprise me, considering how she was involved in that story at that point. She's currently on the market. She does like a bad boy.
For it.
She always seems to walk into these relationships with these terrible men that have got these dark secrets.
What a great soap character. One thing that makes me worried is that we now have Kate Brooks, who it wasn't her story. She's not invested. Who is she going to do this justice? And I'm not trying to say that it would be, a bad, it's not. I'm not. It doesn't reflect badly on her if she kind of doesn't take this, deliver this to the fullest extent, because it's not her story. But I really, really hope that she does. I hope that she gets as invested in it as I am, and I hope that she's got some ideas, and I hope that whoever's left, or what, it's all the same people, but I hope that they have got stuff that she approves of, because the worst thing to me that could happen is that this story dies under the change of hands. The same thing with M&D stuff. There's a lot of stories that are going on that are quite delicate. The M&D
story has probably been plotted out already and said, this is what you're going to do, Kate.
I know. But it'd be very tempting as somebody new to go, hang on, no. I'm gonna do my own thing here. The M&D stuff, the Joel stuff. What was I just talking about? Whatever the other thing I was talking about.
And Kit.
The things that are ongoing, I'm invested in. The Institute stuff, I want to know what happens. I don't want them to be a victim of a new producer going, no, this is a dead end. I'm not interested. I haven't got the passion that you had for it. I want to do something different.
Yeah.
But maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a great thing to give somebody some solid, good A stories to coast on, while you fiddle around in the back and say, what can I do? What can I do?
She still really does need to not sit on her laurels, though.
Well,
she's come into Coronation Street knowing that it's getting a hammering on the press.
She hasn't got any laurels as far as Coronation Street viewers have got, because most people are not going to be aware of her background working for Corrie originally. She has worked on Corrie. She's got actually a solid background working on Corrie. But most people are not going to see that when they look at producer.
Yeah.
Because that job she hasn't done on Corrie before.
So that's kind of it. I think that we kind of touched on the main things that have happened so far this year on Coronation Street. There have definitely been weeks where it's just felt like, it's been okay. It's been an okay kind of week. There's been bits I've not particularly enjoyed, but there have certainly been some elements that have been good. But I'm looking forward with great hope and fingers crossed for the second half of the year, because I think if the second half of this year feels as so as the first half of the year, then it could be trouble. And if they don't do something to quell this outburst of negativity towards Coronation Street in the press, it's going to be really quite an emergency situation in Weatherfield.
I've got a lot of hope. I think Kate can do it. I like Kate's on Corrie. I think they do well.
If she does as well as Kate Oates, then we're going to be laughing.
Thumbs up.
Just before we end, then we always talk a bit about the podcast so far in 2024.
And just a bit of podcast behind the scenes information here. We are recording this on Michael's birthday.
It is my birthday.
So everybody, happy birthday to Michael, me. And thank you to everybody.
It's kind of the only night that we could do it this week, to be fair, isn't it? Because Gemma's on her deadline.
And also there's an election.
There is an election on Thursday.
Thank you to everybody who's wished Michael a happy birthday. He is the engine behind the show, and it is mostly his work that gets you the podcast almost twice a week. Most of the time. Mostly. So thank you.
Thank you. I think the podcast has been doing okay this year. I still don't think it's just been chugging along nicely. I think the danger, what we've been doing a bit over the last few years is been adding and adding and adding to it, which there's been lots of good stuff that's come out, but there's only so much that you can add. And it feels like 2024 has been a bit of a keeping on.
But we can't add any more because we're not going to be able to do it.
We literally can't. I went into this year doing those AI Coronation Street pictures, and I just had to stop because I haven't got the time.
We can only do this as a hobby.
Yeah.
It doesn't... We love you guys for supporting us, but it doesn't pay any bills.
No.
It all goes back into the show.
So far, if I was kind of looking on, so what's been the fresh new thing of 2024
but
for the podcast?
But it does help us do stuff that we wouldn't be able to do. It
does. It's been the Core Eliminator, which was Gemma's idea. And you say a lot of the stuff at Driving Force is me, which I'm not going to deny, but the Core Eliminator was a nice quick idea for Gemma, and it's something that can keep going for the next 12 months or so.
Listen,
and I've been pleased with that.
We work well as a partnership because you are very hardworking and I'm lazy.
Yes.
So whenever I can think of a way of doing something in an easier way, I'll do it. And Core Eliminator is kind of an easy thing. Because you don't need to prepare for it, really. You don't need to research or look up stuff.
I do have to make lots of little pictures of the characters.
You have to find pictures of people, but that's about it. And then everyone likes it. We all get to vote, and I'm really, really excited. I cannot wait to see how this is going to end. And I'm
lots of people have been saying that they've been really enjoying
episode.
I know, me too. I'm sure that there are some people that when the Core Eliminator comes out, they go, "Oh, that again. I'm not into that." It's usually perfectly entitled to do that, but I suppose that's our bonus podcast in a nutshell. There's going to be someone who go, "Great, it's a character profile of Simon Barlow," some of you might have been saying, or "Oh no, now they've got an interview with this actor that I'm not interested in." So the bonus podcast is supposed to be, take it or leave it.
Happen.
And the Core Eliminator has been a lot of fun for us to do, and it's been great being able to do the listener vote as well.
One thing that I really want to say, a massive thank you, and we could never have done this without you guys, is being able to go to Belfast.
Oh yes, that's been good
because
this year,
you guys helped pay for that.
Helped pay for our plane tickets to Belfast this year.
We couldn't have afforded it. I know it's silly, but it was actually quite expensive. And we got to speak to
Mikey Condren.
And you, thank you. And that was brilliant.
He's the nicest guy.
He's
Mikey
so
Condren
nice.
is lovely. So that's been really cool for the podcast to be able to do that. Go across
and also
that
we've been able to go up
well.
to Manchester a few times, and we're going to go up again, hopefully.
We've only been once so far this year. I think this time last year we'd been 3 times. We went loads at the beginning of 23. We've not had the opportunity. We were doing some more work with the Corrie Experience last year. We did go to I did the Corrie Experience. We saw Tanisha on the Star Tours, which was lovely. She's the nicest person.
She's lovely.
We saw a couple of extra locations like the graffiti wall where Paul fell down. I really enjoyed going to see the old Granada set, or where the old Coronation Street had been filmed, which is now kind of there's a shell of it, isn't there? That's left. That was and that's been there all that time, and we've not seen it for the last few years. So that was a really nice trip up north. But as Gemma said, we are intending to go again at some point in the near future. So look out for that, because we know that you guys all enjoy our video tours of north. Of going up north. Speaking of videos, something that I've been really pleased with this year for the podcast was that video that we did for the Conversation Street Awards. That was just kind of an idea on a whim. Like, I wonder if I can actually make a video of the award ceremony by getting a few AI generated art assets and a few little animations. It was basically just a fancy PowerPoint. And I think lots of people enjoyed that as well. And it's always lovely to get some acceptance speeches from some of the actors as well.
One thing we haven't been able to do is to make proper videos for you guys.
No, I feel that we did a bit less of that this year than
it just takes so much time, and we both work full time, and then we do the podcast, which is how many hours a week. It's a lot.
Last year we'd done a few more video episodes, partly because we had gone up north more. We even did that changing sets of the Rover's Return, which is one of our most viewed videos. That took a really, really long time, and the year before that we had the changing sets of Coronation Street.
And we
just not had the opportunity this year. We haven't had the time for this year. We have done a couple of extra shorts. That April Fool's short that we did was quite funny.
I love that. I don't know that it was worth the amount of time.
It took an awful lot of time, but
it
makes me giggle. And we also did that Cade Brooks, the new producer, short. So if there's ever going to be a big news story breaks, I might make a short of it. It's been kind of
It doesn't really benefit us in any way.
In no way. you know, we get maybe 5p out of those shorts. But it's fun to do. But it's benefiting us in a way that our YouTube subscribers are still going
if
up.
You're not
We're close to getting to 2,000, which is, you know, small fry compared to the big YouTubers out there, but I don't consider us a big YouTuber.
We're not a YouTube channel.
We're not a YouTube channel.
We're a podcast that has a YouTube channel.
That does more to it. I've been wanting to expand and upgrade or whatever the YouTube for about 3-4 years now. It has definitely gone up, but we're not going to explode in popularity.
We're not a
on
YouTube channel.
Are we?
We're not YouTubers.
Unless we start posting spoilers, which seems to be the magic ingredient to suddenly have everyone flocking to your YouTube channel. We're not going to do that. We don't. That's not what we're about.
Maybe one day. Maybe you don't rule anything out. I know you're looking at me sideways, but
someone else wants to record some things, right? I just don't want to know spoilers.
I know, that's the thing, because I like speculating, and you can't when you know what's going to happen.
Yeah. We had our new merch this year, didn't we? We've got our Conversation Street keyring and pencil and sticker.
Who would have thought?
Very exciting stuff.
I do have...
For us, at least.
We do have some ideas for new merch, but I don't know that anyone's going to really care now.
I don't know. But yeah, I think it's been keeping up... plodding along nicely, the podcast this year is what I would say.
You're doing yourself down to say plodding along, because I think, you know, it takes a lot of work, and really it takes a lot of you guys, because you guys listen and you interact with us, and that's what keeps it going, because I don't think... It's really hard. It is hard work. I don't do much of it, but it wouldn't be worth doing if it wasn't for you guys listening. So thank you, everybody.
I always like to do this time of the year a bit of a interview check as well, because that is one of my favourite things. Aside from just the generally chatting with you about what's happening in the week, I would do interviews as until the cows come home if I could. And like beginning of last year, it's been a bit of a quiet start. Brilliant getting Vicky Myers on. The Vicky Myers interview is actually now like our 11th most watched video on the YouTube already. So that's been great that people have been into that.
The YouTube.
I don't know. I'm an old fart. Matt Milburn we talked to. Tommy Orpington.
It was great.
And we had a little mini chat with Michael Condra on Britain's Got Talent Week. I'd like more. I've been in talks with some people about possible future interviews, and I can't say any more than that.
It's a bit more difficult than it used to be.
It is a bit more difficult than it used to be, but I'm trying.
And because we don't go to the press events, it's
just want Corrie to do a press event when it's the school holidays.
I could go, but I'm not the interviewer. It would be absolutely ridiculous to send me, because whenever I was doing the interviews, I think I just ruined.
I'm gonna put another push out. Hope for the summer holidays. I'm gonna ask about again and see if anyone, you know, in those 6 weeks, whether anyone would like to come on for a chat, because I know that the listeners do enjoy those, and it's what I really enjoy as well. And it gives you a week off, doesn't it? Because you don't have to do anything apart from doing a little intro and an outro.
Like I said, I just ruined them.
And I really, 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 really hope that Peter Ash will come on the show. And I've not broached the subject with him yet.
We don't know.
We will see, because
pressure.
I'm not putting pressure.
The worst thing is to put pressure.
I absolutely don't want that. I just really hope, and I'm assuming that he's got less than 6 months left, so that's going to be a 2024 if it's going to happen at all. What she's given?
All right. Okay. Right. Sorry, so there you go. That was our
little review of 2024 so far. Both on and off Coronation Street, little bit of podcast stuff. Lovely speaking to you. Thank you for spending my birthday evening having a lovely chat with me. And thank you again for the birthday messages. We are going to be back this weekend.
You're halfway through your life now.
Oh yeah, I think I might have reached that point, to be honest. We'll be back with that depressing thought. I'll be back at the weekend with more chat about what's been going on in this week's Coronation Street.
You're not really right. This is what I always think. Your first 10 years of life, okay, nothing happened. Do you remember anything? Not really.
No.
So therefore, you're not halfway, because those 10 years don't count.
Well, my precious, my life didn't truly start until I met you, did it? Oh. So really, I'm only, 20 24 years into my life, 23 years into my life.
24
you know what?
years
And also,
together.
did William Roach, when he was 41, think I wonder if I'm halfway through my life
No,
now?
he said I'm going for 108.
I'm maybe about a third through, said William
Good
Roach
for him.
at that time. Good for him. Maybe
Keep
that's,
going.
Maybe
Keep
that's the
blazing a
attitude I should
trail
have.
for us, Bill.
Right, we need to go. As always,
Gotta
it
eat
is time for
pizza.
tea. We're going to have a takeaway pizza for my birthday tea. Everyone, thank you so much for listening, and thank you for all your support, etc.,
Honestly, thank you guys, because if I was going to score our listeners, I would definitely give you
10 or
10
5
out of 10.
if we're out of 5.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it.
Goodbye.
Bye, everybody. See ya.